Hey everyone, this is Matt, and I'm finally back from my long hiatus. I've actually been on vacation, as I may have mentioned in my previous video. There's the holidays, there's Christmas, New Year's, so because of COVID and the fact that I didn't travel so much this last year, I basically took like really long Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays to stay with my family. So that's where I've been. I did not quit YouTube, I did not quit playing Dark Magician. I'm simply doing something slightly different. So even though some would consider me I'm a dark magician content creator, there are other decks that I enjoy playing. One person in the comments asked, "Oh, do you like play Eldlich, right? Or like, what other decks do you like to play?" So yeah, Dark Magician is my favorite deck. My second favorite deck is Subterror, and my third favorite deck is Eldlich. So that's the video I'm making today. I'm actually going to make an Eldlich competitive deck profile video. So why I decided to do this? Well, a few reasons. One, I feel like until the burst or the Battle of Chaos support comes out, it feels like Dark Magician is really kind of lacking and lackluster. I definitely felt like I've had worse performances at locals recently. In fact, I'm actually since I've been experimenting with my Dark Magician deck profile. I've removed the Dogmatic engine. I'm trying a bunch of stuff to see if I can do a little better, but basically, I found that it's not doing too hot with Dark Magician. I could do a Subterra deck profile, and maybe one day I will. I also feel like Subterra is very hit or miss this format. I've done like pretty good, like top 8, top 4 with Subterra recently. But the reason I chose to do Eldritch is because while I was on vacation, I did not take a total break from Yu-Gi-Oh. I visited one of my friends in New York City, and I don't know if you know, but the famous cards or Yu-Gi-Oh store, Gamer's Choice, which is a large distributor of a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh products around the country. They sponsor a lot of YouTube videos, like House of Champs, I think is sponsored or has some partnership with Gamer's Choice, like MCole40. A number of different YouTube content creators have uh, you know like association with it. But Gamer's Choice is a fairly big store, right? So I went to that Gamer's Choice while I was in New York City. They hold locals there. It's pretty competitive, usually more than 30 players. A lot of former YCS champs, people who go to YCS, compete in YCS, very meta heavy. And I decided to play Eldlich there. The reason I wanted to play Eldlich was because I've never actually played Eldlich competitively. Like, yeah, I'd play around like for fun. I would play online, maybe play with some friends, but I usually don't take Eldritch to locals. But I decided, you know what, I'm going to take Eldritch to locals just to see how I do. And to my surprise, the very first time I took Eldritch to locals, it wasn't my locals, it was my friend's locals. I invaded his locals, so to speak. But yeah, I actually, yeah, I won first, like straight up first place, right? So interesting story about that. I'll show you some of the screen caps. Anyway, so it was 5 rounds of Swiss, and trying to remember the first round, I went undefeated. The first round, I played against an Invoke DP player. We ended up tying. I won game one, he won game two. We tied game three. So technically undefeated. Game two was against a Dragon Link player. I beat him handily. Game three, trying to remember. I think it was against a Sword Soul player, or maybe it was a I beat him handily. Game 4 was against a Sky Striker player. I beat him handily. And Game 5 was against what was it? Oh, a Burn Up player. Yeah, Game 5 was against a Burn Up player. Yeah. So I went undefeated. I actually got first place in the round of Swiss, as you may have seen in the screenshot. And when we went to top four, they did top four like cutoff for elimination, and they said, hey, do the four of you want to split the prize, or do you want to keep playing? Three of us, including myself, wanted to split the prize. One guy, a Drytron player. So top four was me, Eldlich, Drytron player, a Wanderers player, and an Invoke DP. In fact, the same Invoke DP that I tied with in the first round of Swiss. So the three of us, all except the Drytron player, wanted to just split the prize, go home because it was like late. It was like 9 p.m. or whatever. The Drytron player wanted to play on, so I got matched in the first round of elimination against the Invoke DP guy. I 2-0'd him, even though I tied with him in Swiss. And then in the Drytron player who wanted to stay lost to the Flanders player. And then when we went to finals, so it was me and the Flanders player. He asked to split the prize, but at that point, I don't know. Like the difference between first place, second place was so small that um, I just decided, you know what? We already stayed for top four. Let's just play this out because I just wanted to see if I could win. Right? I felt really good after 2-0ing the Invoke player, and since it was Flanders, like I kind of knew because I dabbled in Flanders like online. I'm kind of familiar with the deck, so I figured, you know what? I think I'm gonna play against Flanders. So I played against him, and I 2-0'd him as well. So very strong victory. Anyway, so let's get into this deck profile here. So I'm building a pure Eldlich trap deck here. This is not an Eldlich zombie world. This is not Eldlich invoked. This is not Eldlich DPE. This is not Eldlich anything else. It's just not even Eldlich Subterror. It's straight up Eldlich with traps, right? The trap version. This deck profile was inspired by Pak, who does enjoy building Eldlich trap decks, and it was also inspired by like a few others. Trif likes to play Eldlich as well. I got a few ideas from him. But yeah, so this is my undefeated Eldlich profile, and before I get started, I just want to note because I will be making other deck profile videos that show my physical cards because the Dark Magician one was an online one. I used the gold dragon sleeves, dragon shield sleeves for Eldlich with red for the extra deck. So I color code all my decks, and as you'll see in my other videos that I do physical deck profiles. Yeah, so gold and red for Eldlich makes sense. It's color theme. My Dark Magician deck is black and purple. My Subterror deck is like petrol with night blue. It just matches the colors of the monsters and like the archetype. I like to do that. You don't have to do that. All right. So without further ado, let's do the main deck first. All right. So the first thing we want is 2 Eldlich, the Golden Lord. Not 3. So similar to Dark Magician, you don't want 3. You'll brick if you have 3. 2 is good because, usually you want them in your deck. You don't want to draw them. But if you do draw one, you don't want to draw more than one. And you only want to draw one sometimes, right? Depending on the matchup. And also, if one of them gets banished, like you can't just run one because if one of them gets banished, you basically can't play, right? So I run Eldlich Golden Lord from Maximum Gold, and so you have to run Premium Gold Rare. So this is one of the few cases or instances where the Premium Gold does look better than the Secret Rare. Like, so this Eldlich does come in Secret Rare, and I also run the Maximum Gold Eldorado alternate art Eldlich, which I think is actually like the nicer artwork. Like most of the time, if I'm searching my deck to summon Eldlich, this is the one I'm going to summon first if I can, because this one looks just so sick. Plus, like if I'm playing, like I can actually have like one on each side of my board and they can face each other. I don't know. I like to like play with my cards more than just like in Yu-Gi-Oh. So yeah, you have to run the Premium Gold. Secret Rare is no bueno. And you can run 2 of the artwork, but I like having one of each, just so like they're unique. Um, I thought about buying foreign language versions of the Eldlich package, and if I did, it would be the Spanish one, right? I mean, like the traps are already partly like have some Spanish words in them already. So if I were to if I were to recommend you, if you're trying to save money or like you just want like foreign cards, get the Spanish versions of these. I think it's like Arcalica El Señor Dorado or something. Anyway, yeah, this is your bread and butter. This is, your boss monster. Whatever is in the extra deck, not that relevant. This is the main guy, right? He can be sent from field to graveyard, and he can his hand effect is you get to target an opponent's card and send it to the graveyard. It does not destroy. So if you're against a monster that can't be destroyed or that has effects to protecting it against destroyed, this doesn't destroy. This sends to the graveyard. So very important, but it does target. So you cannot use it to out Dragoon, unfortunately. but you can use it to out like other monsters that like have destroy restrictions or whatever, because this sends to the graveyard. And then while it's in the graveyard, you can send a trap from the field to the grave to summon it in attack mode, or actually it doesn't have to be attack mode. Could be, yeah, summon it onto the field, and then when you summon it, it gains 1,000 attack, so it becomes 3,500. Important to note that when it summons with 3,500 attack, it's a lingering effect that activate in the graveyard, which means if you have skill drain up, or if someone imperms you or effect village you, it's still going to have 3,500 because it's a lingering effect. It is not a continuous effect. So Dragoons, gain 1,000 every time you negate. That's a continuous effect. This is a lingering effect. So just keep that in mind. If you're running into rulings, just know that. And also, if you do summon it from the graveyard with 3,500 attack, it cannot be destroyed by card effects. That effect is also lingering. So if you chalice, imperm, droplets, doesn't matter. It's still lingering. Like, you cannot be destroyed by card effects, and the 3,500 stays. So yeah, this is the main monsters you want, and you only need 4 monsters in your deck. I run 2 Lord of the Heavenly Prison. Similar logic here to the Eldlich. You do want to draw this, but you don't want to draw more than 1 usually. It's bricky if you draw more than 1. There were a few games where I drew 2 copies in my hand, and it just sucked. Like, that's just like, oh, I wish this was another card instead. But yeah, this card is amazing. This came out in Burst of Destiny. I think in the OCG is called like King of the Sky Prison, whatever. Basically, what this does is 2 effects. 1, you activate in your main phase, you reveal it in your hand, and it stays revealed to your opponent until their end phase. While it's revealed, set cards cannot be destroyed, by period. So that means your entire back row is protected. However, that also means your opponent's back row is protected. So set cards of any player cannot be destroyed. And this also includes monsters. So if they have a face down, a monster in defense mode, it cannot be destroyed while this is revealed in your hand. So very important to note that. Like, when I first started using this card, like, I was a little confused about that effect. But yeah. And then it has a second effect, which can be used on your turn or on your opponent's turn, right? The second effect says that if this is in your hand and a set card on your field or your opponent's field gets activated, spell or trap, on resolution, as a trigger effect, you can activate this in your hand and then special summon it to the field. If this card was revealed by the other effect, then when the special summons to the field, you also get to set a spell or trap from your deck to your back row. But you have to banish it at the end of the next turn. So if you didn't use a reveal effect, or it was negated, and it's in your hand, you can activate it to summon it. You just won't get to search the spell trap from the deck. So yeah, this is a really great card. I swear it was made for this Eldlich deck, for Eldlich. Because one thing you'll notice, Eldlich is level 10. Lord of the Heavenly Prison is also level 10. So yeah, that means that we can go into rank 10s with the 2 of these, and I'll go into that later during the extra deck portion. Yeah. 4 monsters is all you need. Can you run a third Lord of the Heavenly Prison? Yes, you can, and it'll be okay. In fact, I actually do run a third Lord of the Heavenly Prison, but it's in my side deck. It's not in my main deck. I used to main deck 3, but then I figure, you know what? I'm going to side deck, because the thing is, like, this card is much better going first. You don't really want to see it going second, with like some exception. So yeah, I think like when you don't know the die roll result, it's like, okay, 2 in your main deck is pretty safe. You're probably not going to draw 2 and brick on it, but it still has its uses. And again, you can still activate it on your opponent's turn, anyway. So yeah, only monsters you need in your entire deck. I've seen other Eldlich players at my locals and elsewhere play hand traps. No hand traps needed. I've seen them play, the Dogmatica engine. The Dogmatica engine used to be good. I used to run Dogmatica in Eldlich, but the problem with the Dogmatica engine, in my opinion, is that so if you run the Dogmatica engine, all you need is a single Ecclesia. So if you had another monster, it'd be 1 Ecclesia, right? The problem with, because Ecclesia searches punishment, and that's about the only reason why you want Ecclesia, and free summon, whatever. The reason I took Ecclesia out, I took the Ecclesia, the Deer Server, I took all that out, is because in this format, it just feels like monster effects don't really resolve on the field. It's really hard to get monster effects on the field to resolve. Like, I noticed during play testing, like back when I used to have Ecclesia, I summon Ecclesia, use her effect to search, it gets impermed, it gets ashed, it gets Veiler, it gets Chalice, it gets Dropleted. Like, it never freaking resolves, right? So it just seemed like a waste. So the point of this deck, and I would even say this is an anti-meta deck, is like it specifically is built in a way that it completely ignores the current meta. Like your opponent can do whatever they want. They can have all the expensive cards, triple tactics talents, like Droplet, like lightning storms. It doesn't matter. Like you're still gonna do really well with this. Like the goal of this deck is to turn half of your opponent's deck into bricks. These monsters here, their on-field effects are irrelevant. Droplet will literally do nothing against these, right? Imperm does nothing. Like all those cards that people are taking in, Chalice, etc., they're completely useless against this deck because Eldlich's effect is graveyard in hand, and when it gets on the field, its effect is lingering. So even if you negate it, it doesn't matter. And this Lord of the Heavenly Prison, this is a hand effect. It's kind of blurry, but yeah, all of its effects are in the hand. It doesn't do anything on the field. So yeah, everyone teching for monster effects and on-field effects, they don't matter, right? And even just think about like Lightning Storm or like DP, for example. DP is a great engine. Hey, this makes it so that your set cards cannot be popped. If they have DP and they want to pop your traps, too bad. You have this revealed, right? Like if they have Lightning Storm, they want to clear your back row. You have this reveal. Twin Twisters have this reveal. This does not stop Cosmic Cyclone and evenly matched, so it's not like foolproof. It's not perfect, but like most things that exist in the current meta, this deck just ignores it, right? Like think about Scythe Lock. Oh, they want to do Artifact Scythe. Okay, have fun with that because you don't need your extra deck at all. These are the only monsters you really need to win the game, and like obviously you have a bunch of traps here. So yeah, like almost every tech options, like they don't matter. Wind Barrier Statue doesn't matter. Like if this is in your hand, you can send it to pop Wind Barrier Statue, right? Like plenty of ways in this deck to pop Wind Barrier Statue. So this is really good. And one thing I like about the hand effect, right? The Eldlich effect where you send this to your graveyard to pop a card on the field is it sends itself to the graveyard. So a lot of like negate effects, they negate and destroy. It's like okay, or like discard a card to negate and destroy or whatever. Like cool, like against Herald of Perfection, maybe Dragoon. Like cool, you discard a card to negate the effect, but like it's already in the graveyard. Like the destroying doesn't matter, right? So yeah, these are the only monsters you need. Some other deck profiles you run Inspector Border. I used to run Inspector Border in the side deck because Inspector Border is hilarious because it's a normal summon, it's a Floodgate, they can't play. But again, Inspector Border in this current format suffers from the same issues that monsters like Ecclesia suffer from, right? There's so many ways to negate monster effects. Like Chi has a monster negate, right? Like Imperm, Veiler, Droplet, Chalice. Like if you normal summon Inspector Border, most of the time they'll just ignore it. They'll be like, oh, okay, I'll just negate you with Chalice, negate you with Droplet, negate you with Imperm. Or they'll Fusion Destiny, summon DP, and just pop Inspector Border, right? Like Inspector Border is not good in the current format, unfortunately, because of that. So we want to run as many cards as possible that just ignore that are literally anti-meta, right? So no need for Ecclesia, no need for Inspector Borders. These are all the monsters you need. All right. So let's get into spells. I only have 5 spells in the entire deck. Right here. Pot of Prosperity, Pot of Extravagance, and Pot of Duality. Okay, remember how I said we don't really care about the extra deck? Yeah, Pot of Prosperity. You can banish 6 cards from your extra deck, draw 2 cards, done. Like we don't care about the extra deck. Because we're running a trap deck, right? The reason you run Extravagance over Prosperity is because you don't really care what cards you draw, but you want 2 cards instead of 1. Like Prosperity like lets you fish for a specific card, but like there's so many like cards in this deck that just net you more. Or like trade 1 for 3 or 1 for 2, or like trade 1 card for multiple of your opponent's cards that like you don't really need Prosperity. You just want to get more of them in your hand, and like you'll just win by just sheer card advantage, right, against your opponent. So that's the idea here between Extravagance. Duality, most of the time you're not summoning on your turn, you're summoning on your opponent's turn. I mean, yeah, there's exceptions, like you want some on your turn, but like turn 1, you draw this, like you're gonna set 4, set 5, and pass. You're not gonna summon Eldlich on the first turn probably. So yeah, duality is just great for just fishing more cards. And let me let you in on a little secret. These cards are also completely optional. These are actually side deck slots. If you want 5 cards from your side deck and you don't know what 5 cards to take out, here's 5 cards right here. You don't need these cards. They're not that important. Why? Because again, when you're going first or second, you don't know what your matchup is. You don't know, you have not sighted, right? So these cards here help you get to other cards that might be useful again in your matchup. But once you know your matchup and you go into your side deck, you can actually, if you want, side these out completely because you know the matchup, you know what cards you need to win the matchup. You just side them in, and then you'll just have them. So rather than having a pot, you'll just have the card that you need to win the matchup, right? So yeah, these are the only spells. Some people like to build, I like to run Eldland. Don't need that. Some people like to run Elixir of White Destiny or whatever, like the Elixir spells. You don't need any of those. Um, yeah, but also it's funny because like think, oh, Imperial Order, people complain about that. Yeah, we don't really care about Imperial Order because these are the only spells we run. If you know your opponent's running Imperial Order, take these out. Done, right? Like you don't need spells at all. So yeah, these are the only spells you need. All right, so let's talk about the traps. So by the way, the rest of this deck is all traps. So we're looking at a 40 card deck where you have 4 monsters, 5 spells, 31 traps. These are all traps. Yeah, I won first place with this. All right. So here is your standard Eldlich package. Triple Elixir, triple Conquistador, double Waquero. These are the correct ratios for each. You want to see Elixir as often as possible because not only do you summon Eldlich from your deck, but you can banish these from your grave to search these. And a lot of people don't realize that this is also like if you open, Eldlich and this in your hand, this is perfect discard fodder, right? Because you can send Eldlich to the graveyard to pop a card, banish this to set one of these cards like Waquero, and then immediately send that Waquero to the graveyard to summon Eldlich to the field. So like yeah, so you want to see this as often as possible. So that's why you run 3. Conquistador, this pops a card on the field without, it has to be a face-up card without targeting. So this is really good. You want to see them as much as possible. You can banish this on your end phase to search the elixirs. Waquero is really good because it allows you to banish a card from your opponent's graveyard. So the reason you want to run 3 of these and 2 of these is because you want to see these as often as possible. You don't necessarily want to see these as often as possible. You usually want to search these off these only when you need it. People don't realize this banishes from either graveyard. Normally you banish from your opponent's graveyard, but this isn't out to DP. If DP is in the graveyard, you summon Waquero before it comes back on the standby phase, and you banish DP. No more DP. DP over, done, right? And there's a lot of other neat tricks. You can banish Alistair against an invoked DP player. If you're against a Drytron, banish Ben 10, banish DP, banish Herald, whatever. Like these are some very niche cases. Popping a card is usually always useful, and these can all in the graveyard on the end phase can also search these. So yeah, standard Eldlich package. Like Eldlich has been around for a good time, and this is the right ratio for these 3. You don't need any more than these. So all right, so let's talk about standard traps that are just always good. Starting with Torrential Tribute. This card is always good. No matter the meta, no matter the format, this blows up the board. Monster summoned. Just flip this up, destroy all monsters. Interesting interaction people usually forget about or maybe don't think actively about. You can so this obviously Torrential requires your opponent to summon a monster. You can force during your opponent's turn. You can summon a monster on their turn to force Torrential to be activatable, right? Like let's say they stop summoning, or maybe you waited too long and they don't summon anymore. Like you can force a summon by just bringing out one of these, and then just you're flipping Torrential Tribute. FYI, in case you've noticed, this Torrential Tribute looks different than this one. So this is the newest ultra rare Torrential Tribute from Battles of Legend, BLR, I forgot whatever. And this is actually the very first Torrential Tribute I ever got back in the early 2000s when Yu-Gi-Oh was like first became a thing. This is from Labyrinth of Nightmare, so this is why this looks like old and darker, um, and why like the text is so much longer. Like, see, this card says like this is the note: when monsters is summoned, destroy all monsters. Let me see if I can focus this. Monsters on the field, and then the old one before the erratas says you can activate this card when monsters summoned, include flips, destroy all monsters on the field. So Legacy of Nightmare or Labyrinth of Nightmare, yeah. So this is the OG turn tribute, the very first one. Back when turn tribute was limited to one per deck, like it was like the best blow up card or whatever. Like yeah, I still have this from like 2001 or 2002 or whenever it was that it came out. So yeah, just wanted to show that off a little bit. Yeah, this is probably pretty much always useful. I don't think I would ever side this out, simply because like there's no I don't see a bad matchup for this. The only time I could possibly think is like let's say you're against like Invoke Shadal, they have Magical Meltdown. If they fusion summon a monster, Magical Meltdown prevents you from activating Torrential Tribute when they summon their fusion monster. But there are other ways, you can summon on like flip it on Anaconda, flip it on Alistair, like there's other way, like if they don't have meltdown, you can still flip this. So I still wouldn't necessarily side this out. Like this is just like really good. All right, so that's our first trap lineup. Next trap lineup, Dogmatic Punishment. This is also a generically good trap that like you probably it's probably gonna be good no matter the meta or format. Because you run like Entices. I'll get into the extra deck later. We run Entices. This basically pops two cards on the field. It does lock you out of the extra deck on the next turn, but you don't care because, well, you don't really care about the extra deck. There are a few cases I would side this out. Against some matchups where it's really hard to get Entis. Like, let's say you're against Infinitrack Machina. Infinitrack Machina is a deck that with a lot of monsters that have 3,000 attack or more, you're probably not going to be able to send Entis and get two pops off that. You're just going to send one card and get a single pop. Maybe in that case, I would side this out for something else. Or like against Sword Soul, like if they own Barone Shishao, their Barone Shishao are both over 2,500. Like, yeah, you have other targets in your extra deck, but this would be a single pop instead of two pops against. So very rarely do I side this out. And if you do side out, side one out, right? Like it's usually useful to have a couple of these, because as I'll get into in the extra deck later, there are targets other than Entis that you might want to send sometimes, and I'll explain why. But anyway, yeah. So punishment is really good. Um, so let me see. I'm trying to make this less distracting. The next really good card here, 3 Ice Dragon's Prison. So we're currently in a meta where Ice Dragon's Prison is really good. The reason being that there's a lot of decks that have similar types. Bird Up is like all wing beasts. Flounders is all wing beasts, right? Sword Soul is all worms. So whenever we're in a meta where like a card like Tikaboo is really good, this card is also really good. So yeah, this banishes a card from your opponent's graveyard as well as a card from their field, basically. I mean, this could also be used to like just special summon a monster from their graveyard. So I used this once. I remember I was against an invoke. Yeah, it was in that locals. I was against one invoke DP player. He hit me with there can be only one, right? Which means like I could only have one zombie. So like just Eldlich. I couldn't use any of the Eldlich cards. So what I did was like I flipped Ice Dragon's Prison, and I revived Nibiru from his graveyard onto my field, and I just had a 3K beater. So whatever you revive that goes on your field, you're not required to banish it, but also its effects are negated, but it can still attack. It's still a monster, so Nibiru can just like attack. It's a 3K beater, or I revive his Mechaba like before he's able to do whatever with it. So yeah, so this can be used not just for banishing, but also just stealing monsters from the opponent's graveyard and just like use that as a beater, or to go until some of your link summon plays. So this is really good, but there are some times you want to side this out. Let me think. So Dragon Link, this is useful. Drytron, this is useful. If you can banish Ben 10 and Beatrice, that'd be really great. Trying to think. Yeah. I guess the only time I would side this out is against like Fluanderies. Actually, yeah, Fluanderies is not so good because Fluanderies monsters usually banish rather than go to graveyard, and you don't really want to banish their monsters anyway, because like it helps them. So against Flaunderies, I would just side all of these out, honestly. Um, against Virtual World, sometimes I side it out. Like, yeah, they want to banish their monsters too sometimes if they have Chuche, but I mean, if they don't have Chuche or you pop Chuche or whatever, like you definitely want to get rid of Shen Shen. If Shen Shen's in the grave, like banish that, right? So yeah, if you do want to side out against Virtual World Fluanderies, and if you side out against Virtual, maybe take one out or all three. It's up to you. But yeah, so this card's really good. All right, 2-0. I have two-dimensional barrier. So dimensional barrier is really good in this meta because there's a lot of decks that rely on one type of summoning, like you know, and it's a lingering effect, which means if they evenly match you, if they lightning storm you, and you don't have like judgment or something to protect it, you can just flip this and just call like whatever summoning mechanic. If you're against invoke DP, just flip this, call fusions, done. Like their turn is over. It's like literally like good game. All right, it's like uh oh Sword Soul, Synchros, uh Drytron, Rituals, uh what is it? Bird Up, Xyz. This is just really funny. Yeah, it just ends their turn immediately, and because it's a lingering effect, like it's really hard for them to stop it. Like, oh, why do I run two copies instead of three? My third copy is in the extra deck, and the reason I run two in the main is because, sorry, not the extra deck, the side deck, is because some matchups like Sky Striker, this doesn't really do much. Like the only thing this would do is like if you're against Sky Striker that runs DPE, you can call fusions and prevent DPE. Like, but the rest of their deck is just Link monsters, right? Or let's say you're against like, oh, I don't know, any deck that uses Link. So the only summoning type this does not stop is Links, right? It, um, like if you're against what's another Link heavy? Yeah, Pure Tri Brigade is mostly Links as well. They can just ignore that. So yeah, I run two in the main deck because it's useful most games, but sometimes it's not useful, and you know, so you don't want to see more than one. This is also hard once per turn, right? But there are most of the time when I side deck, I put in the third copy because most matchups they are um, they are relying on like one summoning mechanic. Speaking of two ofs and three ofs, the last regular trap card I run is Trap Trick. So Trap Trick is really good because it makes all your normal traps have basically two more copies. Oh, I'm not running two copies of Dimension Shifter. I'm running four copies, right? Because this can search and set this from the deck. Like I'm not running three copies of Ice Dragon's Prison. I'm actually running five copies because of Trap Trick. Like five copies of Punishment, five copies of Treasure Tribute, even Elixir, right? Like Elixir is what you want to basically get going on your Eldlich engine. Like you want to get your Eldlich out. Like Trap Trick adds two more copies of those, right? Because these are normal spells, whereas the zombies are continuous spells, so they cannot be used for Trap Trick targets. So yeah, uh, two Trap Tricks is good because they're hard ones per turn, and you usually do not want to see more than one in your hand. I did used to run three of these back in the day, and I regretted them because I would often see two in my starting hand, and that's no bueno. Two is plenty. Like that just means that your three ofs are now five ofs, and that means you'll almost always open like the trap that you need, right? So two Trap Trick in the main deck, no exceptions. You will never side this out because it will always be useful. All right, so those are all the normal traps. Floodgates. These are the floodgates that you need. All the floodgates. Two goes a match. We're currently in a meta where a lot of decks rely on multiple attributes. Um, biggest example, the biggest deck killer is uh, Sword Soul. All Sword Soul monsters are worms with different attributes. Goes a match. It's like this card has single-handedly won me uh, games against Sword Soul. It's like, and the funniest thing is like, if they activate Long Ran, you chain this, and their turn is over. Long Ran's a fire. The token is a water. They have no other fire monsters in their decks. None of the 10E monsters are fire. Uh, like this just wins. Like yeah, technically if they have Moye is a water. The token is a water, and they can go into a Synchro 8, add Emancipator Risen, and that's it. Like that's all they can do under Goes and Match is like bring out one water Synchro Monster that like has a single negate. It's not even that good. So yeah, I main deck 2 of these because there's a lot of decks where this is not good against. So this is really good also against Sky Striker. All the Sky Striker monsters are different attributes. You flip goes a match on their draw phase, their turn is over. Like they can't do like they can't go, Ray can't go link into anything because Ray's dark. Like most of the Sky Striker links are water, earth, and fire are the main ones, right? Like once they have one of them on the field, they can't go to the other ones. Goes a match, just single-handedly wins you like that matchup. Virtual World, this is amazing. If you lock them into wins, they cannot go into Ultimaya to bring out Crystal Wing, and they can only use like so half of the Virtual World like small monsters are wind, half are earth, right? So that means they either have to only play with the earth ones or only play with the winds. So that cuts off half their engines, and even once they get them on the field, they're restricted. Like they can only go into wind or earth, right? So best case they bring out Shen Shen, and that's it. They can't bring out Dragoon, they can't bring out Crystal Wing, they can't bring out Kaliga because they're just like locked in the wind or earth. And like their wind and earth synchros are not that good. So goes a match can win that battle, that matchup. You might think, oh, why don't I run 3 copies? I run my 3rd copy in the side deck because sometimes like goes and match doesn't do anything. Like against Bird Up, they're all wins. It doesn't do anything. Flu it does. You flip this when they summon their water bird. They summon Robina, which is their main starter as a water. Flip this immediately on like to chain to Robina, and they cannot summon any wind. And most of their best wing beasts are wind. Their turn is over. Against Drytron, this does not much. Invoke DP is like sometimes if they summon Alistair, you activate this, they cannot go into Mechaba, right? Or if they Alistair link into Almirage, you flip this, they can only go into Purgatory. They can't go into Mechaba, right? So most of the time I'll side this out against Invoked, but yeah, I have gone in game 1 where this is useful and it like helped me win the game against Invoked. So yeah, this is your main Floodgate. Because guess what? Uh, Eldlich and all your little zombie monsters are lights. However, this guy is a dark, so it does conflict. But your main engine is light monsters, so you can actually like kind of ignore that. And also on your turn, if Eldlich is in your graveyard, you can actually like send Goes Master to the graveyard to revive Eldlich, and then like unbreak the Floodgate. Like the Floodgate's good on your opponent's turn, and I guess you can remove it on your turn, right? All right. So the next 2 Floodgates that can single-handedly win games. Skill Drain. If this was at 3, we'd play 3 of them. It literally ignores your deck. Like does do anything to your deck. Why? Because Eldlich, these are monsters that if you negate their effect on the field, it doesn't matter. The 3500 attack boost is lingering, and also both of its effects are hand effect and a graveyard effect. So on the field, it doesn't matter. And this guy is all hand effects. Once he's on the field, the effect doesn't matter. So yeah, skill drain is really funny. Also, fun fact: if you have skill drain active, they cannot imperm you. Like let's say they want to use imperm to like negate one of the cards in your column. You cannot negate a monster that's already negated. So they actually cannot imperm you to do that. So that's really cool. Yeah, this card wins you games single-handedly. Because most matchups, the monster has an effect on the field, and this just negates it completely. Like yeah, the general rule is if you drew this card, you probably won the game. Imperial Order, same deal. If you drew this card, you probably won the game. Most matchups require spells. Yeah, so if you drew both of these, it's like guaranteed win. This by itself is probably enough to win the game, and this is just like, oh, you'll win against Invoked because Invoked needs spells or they cannot play at all. Same with Drytron. Drytrons need their rituals. They can't play. Like these 2 Floodgates are so good, and since you only run 5 spells in your deck, and these are spells that like you're gonna play on your first turn before you use an Imperial Order anyway, it doesn't even matter. And in fact, you can just side these out, and you don't have to deal with spells at all. So yeah, these are game-winning Floodgates, absolute must. You will never side these out. These you will side out depending on the matchup. But yeah, this is your Floodgate / continuous trap lineup. All right, now let's go into the final cards, which you won't be surprised to see. It's your no cards. 3 Solemn Strike, 3 Solemn Judgment. Very self-explanatory. You've seen in my Dark Magician profile videos that I love these cards. I always run 3 Solemn Judgment. In my Dark Magician deck, I run 2 Strike, which is usually enough, but I have the space for it, and I'm a trap deck. I'm just gonna run 3. Why not Solemn Strike as well? These are just say no cards. Oh, they summon Access Code? Nope. They use Evenly Match? Nope. They whatever. Anything you want to say no to. Oh, Herald of Perfection wants to negate your torrential tribute? Nope. Um, a common misconception is that why do you main deck these instead of side decking these? Solemn Strike is a card that's good going first or second because let's say you're going second and they set up a big board and you want to clear. If you have any board clear, like let's say you have a turn tribute and Solemn Strike, you can set both of these, and then on their turn, like whenever they summon, you flip this, and if they try to negate your turn tribute with like a Herald of Ultimateness or Perfection, or maybe they have AV and Apex, you chain Solemn Strike to negate that, and then you clear the board anyway. So yeah, Solemn Strike, big misconception. People think, oh, it's good going second. It's only going first. No, it's amazing going second, and most of the time you will never side out Solemn Strike because it's just so useful that way. Solemn Judgment. I like this even when going second. It prevents summons, prevents a lot of stuff. I guess you can make the argument that if you're game 2 or game 3 you're going second, maybe you can side these out for something better, but most of the time you want to keep these because like most of the time your opponent will side in board clear, like Evenly Match, maybe Harpy's Lightning Storm, and it's good to have these just in case because you don't want to get your back row clear because you are a back row deck. You're setting back row all the time. Your opponent knows this. They're going to side in back row clear. Just have these handy whenever you can. And these stop summons too. They summon access code, bam, no more access code, right? So yeah, so that is the main deck. Pretty self-explanatory. Um, so let's get into the extra deck. Should we do extra deck first or side deck? Yeah, let's do extra deck. People like extra deck. All right. So your extra deck is mostly fodder. But it's useful fodder. So your fusion lineup, 3 Elder Entity Intis. You have 3 Dogmatic Punishments, have 3 Intis, so that all 3 of them can be live and can get a pop 2. Also, because we use Pot of Extravagance, it's possible that maybe you'll banish 1 or 2 of these, but very rarely does 1 Pot of Extravagance banish all 3 unless you get super unlucky. But yeah, this card is good because, you banish 1 or 2, go in punishment, can still get a pop 2. But also, let's say you're in the Invoke DPE matchup and they use Maximus. Maximus forces both players to send 2 monsters from your extra deck to your graveyard. So let's say they have Maximus like Mechaba, right? So Maximus, you send 2 Entis to your graveyard. And now you can activate both of them. So Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2. Chainlink 1, target Mechaba. Chainlink 2, target Maximus. So if they can try to use Mechaba to negate the Chainlink 2 one, which would banish it and protect Maximus from being destroyed. But then the Chainlink 1 one, which is targeting Mechaba, will still pop Mechaba. So yeah, this is really hilarious. Like when they have Maximus, you just send 2 Intis and screw them over. So yeah, this is the only fusion cards you need. Because I don't run Ecclesia, I don't have Titanic Cloud. Otherwise, I would have Titanic Cloud in here. So yeah, so those are the only fusions you need. Some people like to run DPE in this deck. It's unnecessary, especially since DPE is also susceptible to cards like Chalice, Droplet, Imperm, Veiler, etc. Also, DPE gets gets this effect negated by skill drain. So yeah, there's no point in running DP in this deck. Alright, so that's our Synchro lineup. Just 2 Synchros. Wind Pegasus, Agnister, and Omega. Wind Pegasus is really good. It's only 2300, so most of the time you will not be using this pop, but this has a really good bounce effect. So, if this is in your graveyard and your opponent destroys one of your cards, you can trigger this in your graveyard to bounce one of their cards back. So this is pretty useful. And Omega is useful because, it's a 2800, so you can use it to destroy Chi-Shao and like other monsters that are slightly stronger than 2500. And one thing that people don't realize about Omega is that he has an effect that says, what is it? Once per turn, oh no. If this card is in your graveyard, last sentence, you can target one other card in the graveyard, either graveyard, shuffle both that card and this card from the graveyard to deck. So let's say your opponent has DPE, and you have this in your graveyard, their DP is in the graveyard, this is in the graveyard, you can activate this in your graveyard, shuffle this card and DP into the decks. So that deals with the this is another out for DPE. Speaking of outs for DPE, I forgot to mention, Ice Dragon's Prison is really good because it is yet another out for DPE. Like, let's say they activate DPE, you chain Ice Dragons, you target their Celestial, banish Celestial and DPE, and then you no longer have to deal with DPE ever again. So another out for DPE. This, like, DPE summons during the standby phase. So if it's in the graveyard and it's set to summon the next standby phase, on the draw phase you activate Barrier and call fusions, and then DP cannot return. So they're forced to summon Celestial or Dasher or whatever. So yeah. Anyway, Omega is just another out for DP. Omega is also good because it can shuffle cards from your own graveyard back into your deck. Like if you have a card that you want to recycle for whatever reason, you can do that. Yeah, because of Omega. Omega is very useful as a punishment target. Synchros. Xyz. First Xyz. Rank 5. I don't know if you're aware, but your little zombie monsters, Golden Land monsters, they summon monsters that are level 5, right? Which means if you have 2 of them on the field, you can overlay, like let's say Waquero overlays with this to make Constellar Pleiades, right? And Pleiades is really good because first of all it's a light monster, so that's always good. Can play through goes in a match. It's 2500 attack, which is really good. It has an effect. It's a quick effect that says once per turn, detach 1 material from this card, target 1 card in the field, return that card target to the hand. So this is a bounce, and it's a quick bounce. So there's another out for DP. Let's say they have DPE, they activate DP's effect. You chain this, target DP to bounce it, and then they'll get a pop, but like DP will be gone for good, right? So this is really good. It's also really good, like to attempt to OTK bounce a monster so that you can attack directly or bounce one in their back row. Really good, really good. Usually you want to, bouncing extra deck monsters are usually good because they can't summon it again easily without more bodies. So yeah, this is your only rank 5 that you need. Alright, rank 10s. Remember how I said that, so Eldliches are level 10s. Water Handling Prison are level 10s, so we do run rank 10s. We run, well, the main rank 10 we run is Super Dreadnought, Rail Cannon, Gustav Max. For those of you who don't know, this is a 3k beater that says once per turn detach 1 Xyz material and burn your opponent for 2000 damage. So this can be good for finishing off, and this can also attack. So burn for 2k and then attack for 3k. So that's 5k damage right there. So yeah, and since this sends Eldlich to your graveyard, you can immediately summon Eldlich back, right? If you haven't yet used the graveyard effect. Yeah, it's 2k. Like, let's say it's game 3, the timer's almost up. Like, burning your opponent for 2k just will give you a huge advantage. Maybe you'll win just off that, right? All right, next Xyz. Super Dreadnought, Rail Cannon, Juggernaut, Lieb, Super Dreadnought. Yeah, so this is a rank 11, but you can rank up from this monster. So usually what you want to do is like you overlay like your 2 level 10s into Gustav Max. You detach 1, burn for 2k, and then you rank up. And then if you don't know, so this is a 4k attack monster. If you detach a card, this becomes 6,000. So a very good way to OTK your opponent if they don't have a monster protecting you, or if you're able to clear their board. That's 8k damage, right? So you have 2 Eldliches, overlay, detach, burn for 2k, rank up, swing for 6k. That's 8k damage. Good game. So I've literally like won several games using this method. In fact, the very final game I played that won me the tournament against the Floodgates player, that's how I beat him. I was able to get like a turn in where he had no monsters on the field, and I basically OTK'd him. I'll go over a quick replay of the final turn, just so you guys can see like how crazy and versatile this deck can be. Anyway. Alright, and then the final Xyz, which should be no one's surprise, is Zeus, right? Like, let's say you do not OTK, but you get to attack. overlay Zeus, and you now have a board clear, right? Most of the time you don't want to use it, but sometimes you need to. And the cool thing is the Zeus is light, so if you're under Gozen match, you can use Considered Pallades, bounce a card, attack, and then overlay Zeus, which is a light, right? And this can all be done under Gozen match. So yeah, these are your only Xyz that you need. All right, let's go into links. First, 2 link spiders. Reason why is because your little Golden Land trap monsters, Conquistador and Walquero, these are normal monsters. These are not effect monsters. So you can turn them into effect monsters using Link Spider. The only downside is like Link Spider is an Earth monster, so if you're on a Gozen match, you actually can't link them. Um, but that's okay because there's other ways to link them away. Because sometimes you do, like you either want to send. The reason you want to link them away is because you want to send them to the graveyard so you can use their graveyard effects, or you want to turn them into an effect monster so you can like link into something else. The reason I run 2 is because if you use Pot of Extravagance, hopefully you'll banish one but not the other, and you can still use it. So these are the only link ones. Your only link 2, Lina Light Charmer. Lina Light Charmer is very good. This is a link 2 that links a light monster and one other monster. So let's say you're under Gozen match and you still want to get like um, your little Golden Land monsters into the graveyard. You can link them away like if you have 2 monsters with her because she's a light. Also, she's a great way to helping you OTK, right? So let's say you're under Gozen match, you can't actually go into the Xyz because these are Earth monsters, or maybe you banish these off of Extravagance. Like for whatever reason, you want OTK. Maybe you don't have the reason you're not able to go the Xyz route, but it's not a like guaranteed OTK. Like one thing I like to do is let's say you have an Eldlich on your field, and like let's say you have a Conch, right? So you link these away. So you can swing for 2,500, or you can link these away into Lina. Lina's 1850. If the opponent has a light monster in their graveyard, let's say they have a Mechaba, let's say they have a Chi-Shao, there's a number of light monsters they can have. Let's say they have, the Drytron Ritual monsters, which are also light. You can activate her effect to revive that monster, right, to a area it points to. Uh, so now you have 1850 plus whatever monster you revive, plus since you just sent these into the graveyard, you can revive Eldlich for 3,500 attack. So you went from having 2,500 attack on swing to 3,500 plus 1850 plus whatever the third monster is, right? And in fact, if you do have that extra monster, link 2, Eldlich plus whatever monster you revived, you can now go into you can link up an access code, which I'll explain later. But yeah, I remember I once beat a Sword Soul player like that. I went for the OTK, right? I had it was it was on their end phase. I had Eldlich, he had Chi-Shao, right? On their end phase, I summoned Conch, popped their Chi-Shao. On my turn, I link these into Lina. Lina revives Chi-Shao, and then I bring back Eldlich at 3,500. So 3,500 plus 1850 plus 2,800 is just over 8,000. That's an OTK because their Chi-Shao is a light monster, right? So yeah, Lina is really really good. Even if you don't steal a monster from their graveyard, like it's just a way to get some of these other monsters into the graveyard, like where they're more useful, right? So yeah, very important to have Lina. Um, anyway, so that's your only link 2. Link 3, Selene. Selene is a link 3. You can make Selene using Lina plus whatever Lina revives, because you have a link 2 and a spellcaster with another monster, and then you can immediately go into Selene. Why would you want to go Selene? Because if you go into access code, then you'll have Selene as a link 3 to make access code 5300, right? Also, Selene is a light monster, so can also play around, Gozen match. Obviously, like it's like you would only go to Selene if you want to go on access code or something, because like linking away an 1850 with another monster for an 1850, it's not going to help you OTK. It's going to be detrimental for you to OTK. But yeah, Selene's really good. You have no spellcasters to revive, like with her effect, but that doesn't matter. Like she's just a link 3 that lets you get access code. Another link 3 I like to run is Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. I have yet to really use him, but I mean, you can make him with Eldlich and any of the like the trap monsters, as long as they're unique names. It's just another way to get them to the graveyard, right? Like, let's say you're not under a restriction by Goes and Match, and let's say you have like you want to increase your OTK potential. Yeah, link away Eldlich and like your little trap monsters for this guy. And then when you swing, like you can banish a card, you can increase it 4,500. It's just a good card. Yeah, I have yet to win a game with it, but yeah, and I have the Ghost Rider one, which I've shown in from the other video. But yeah, he's pretty powerful. Most of the time, he gets banished off Extravagance, and he doesn't synergize as well with the other pieces. But I just like him. If I were to cut a monster for another card, if I need another card extra deck, I'd probably cut him. But he's still nice to have. It's just like a big beater that can run over a lot of cards. And if you link him away with Eldlich, he becomes untargetable and unable to be destroyed by card effects. So yeah, very strong. And then finally, the last monster is your only link for Access Code Talker. I finally bought this card. If you've seen my other Dark Magician videos, you'll know that I didn't have access code. Now I do. I got the premium gold rare, so much cheaper. I got this for $30, near mint, $30 access code. Can you imagine if I told you like 3 months ago, I'm gonna buy access code Talker for $30? Like, you'd think I'd be crazy, right? But yeah, um, it actually looks much nicer in premium gold than I realized. Usually I don't like premium gold, but some cards it just works, and I think access code works because he has a lot of gold features in his artwork that like really stand out thanks to this. But yeah, access code is another OTK condition. If you link him away from Celine, he becomes 5,300, and depending how you got to them, like if you got to him through Link Spider, Link Spider's an Earth, banish the pop. Selena's a light, banish the pop, so you get at least 2 pops. If you also had this in your graveyard, I guess you can banish this to pop, but most of the time you just get the 2 pops. And yeah, I showed you how earlier how you can link climb, right? Like make this, steal one of their monsters, that's 3, and then you can optionally link them, Lina into with the other monster into Celine. And if you can bring Eldlich back, you can then make access code, or maybe like one of the Eldlich traps, you can make access code. Yeah, I've summoned him once. Uh, yeah, he doesn't come up often, but the one time he does, he usually like wins the game. Um, so yeah, so that is my extra deck. Now let's get into the side deck. The side deck is very spicy. All right, so this is the Pak/Trif special. Triple Lava Golem. Triple Winged Dragon and Raw Sphere mode. These cards have single-handedly won me games. You do not need a normal summon in this deck. These cards consume your normal summon. And yeah, so you don't. So your Eldlich will not conflict with these at all. It's really funny because usually people think, oh, you have a deck full of traps. You want to go first, right? Well, actually, you can play some mind games. Like if you know your opponent's going to side a Lightning Storm side and evenly match, you can just choose to go second and just put both of these in, right? Obviously, they have a deck. They need to have a deck where they're going to summon 3 monsters or end their board on 3 monsters, and then they are both at live. But yeah, most decks now do. So Sword Soul usually ends with 2 monsters. So against Sword Soul, I would only side in Lava Golem. I would not side in Winged Dragon Sphere mode. Against Drytron, side both. Against Bird Up, side both. Against Sky Striker, I would only side these 2 because if they're Sky Striker or DPE, this takes out Shizuku DPE or like whatever. Against invoked DPE decks, both are useful. They usually end on Mechaba or Nakana DPE or maybe Mechaba DPE Ecclesia. Usually they can end on 3 monsters, in which case this becomes relevant. I'm trying to remember. So in the locals where I won, against a Dragon League player, I summon Ra by attributing Borlo Savage, Chaos Ruler, and Hieratic Seal. So that's 3 monsters, so bam, done, right? Against the Sword Soul player I played, he had Barone, Chisao, boom, Lava Golem, gone. Oh, that's a cute board you have there. Oh, that's it. Oh, you have Barone Chisao, bam, right. If you tribute Chisao Barone, their Sword Soul Blackout is completely gone, right? It's useless. I love, 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 and I absolutely think if you play Eldlich, you must play these in your side deck. No exceptions, right? They just single-handedly win games. It was funny because the Sword Soul player that I played against, I gave him Lava Golem, and I attributed his Chi Barone, and then on his turn, I used Gozen Match. Lava Golem's with fire, and the only other fire monster they have is a Longran, so that means they could not clear Lava Golem. So all I had to do, if I wanted to, was just like, you know, just prevent Lava Golem from like attacking me directly, and he just burns for 1,000 every turn. In fact, against the invoked DP player, the invoked DP player I played in the semifinals, same guy I tied in the Swiss round. He ended, yeah. So this is game two. He ran Pot of Prosperity, and by the time that I think he ended up playing two Pots of Prosperity. That game. I gave him Lava Golem. Like I attributed his Mechaba and his DPE, which is hilarious, by the way. By the way, these also out DPE. If you tribute DPE, cannot revive. Hilarious. Um, yeah, I gave him Lava Golem, and because he used Pot Prosperity and banished all his links, it was impossible for him to get Lava Golem off his field, and he literally just died to just burning by 1,000 every turn because I just stalled. He was at like 3,000 at the time, and like yeah, so he literally had Lava Golem on his field for 3 turns, and he could not get rid of it because he didn't have Lake Monsters. It was really funny. Yeah, against Drytron, oh, you have Herald, IP, DP, like Herald of Perfection. That like Drytron will spend their whole deck getting out Herald of Perfection. You just get rid for 6 negates. You just get rid of it with one of these. This is so funny. Virtual World. Oh, you end it with Crystal Wing, Ultimaya, and Shenshin. Bam, right? Like burn up. Oh, that's a nice Simorg, Apex Avian, F-Zero you have there. Bam. Like this will clear almost any board, and it's so funny. Like how you can just see them crush. Like you might as well just good game next. Like and because you run 6 of these, like you have 6 of these in your deck, like you side them in, you will see at least one. And you're going second, you can just like, oh, wait your turn, wait, and then as soon as main phase good, or like done, right? The board is clear. You can just ignore everything they did on their turn thanks to these cards. One thing I want to note, however, Winged Dragon Raw Sphere mode. So cannot be destroyed or targeted for attacks. So you can't just pop like you can pop Lava Golem, attack them. But at the end of your opponent's on your opponent's end phase, so you give it to them next turn, they do their turn, the end phase. If it's still on their board, this returns to your field. And I just want you to notice a little thing here. Winged Dragon Raw Spearman is level 10, baby, which means you can actually, this comes back to your field. You can overlay these into a rank 10. It's funny because, against the Dragon Link player, I gave him Seer Mode, attributed his Hierarch Seal, Borreload, and Chaos Ruler, and then, he didn't clear on his turn. This returned to me, and I literally overlaid these, like, against him, made, Gustav Max, burned, and then made this, swung, like, because it's a level 10, you can make rank 10s. Like this is so useful. This just goes over people's heads. Like this is even more useful. Like some people call this is the Trif special because in all of Trif's pendulum decks he likes to run these. Like, but this is so useful in Eldlich, and he also in his Eldlich profiles he recommends because this is a level 10. Like just run this. Like I'm not exaggerating when I say these are mandatory side deck. Like no exceptions. By the way, I just want to flex something real quick. So these lava golems are from starter deck Merrick or structure deck Merrick. But if you'll notice something, this lava golem is colored a little differently. That's because this lava golem is the very first lava golem from Invasion of Chaos. So yeah, this is the OG lava golem, the very first lava golem I ever pulled in Yu-Gi-Oh back in the early 2000s. Like So yeah, I still have them to this day. Like, so when I went home for Thanksgiving, I went to my parents' basement. All my old cards were there. I found some of these hidden gems, and I run them in my decks today. So, all right. All right, so these are mandatory, and I would say these are staple going second cards that you always want to run going second. Another staple going second card, Broken Line. So Pak loves this card, and I can see why. Broken Line is essentially 2 more copies of Solemn Strike. So this is a counter trap, and it's actually slightly better than Solemn Strike because it doesn't cost life points. It says when a spell, trap, or monster effect is activated in this card's column, while this is set, negate the activation and destroy the card. So this is good going second because let's say they set up a board, right? Like here's their Herald is here, like in this column, their Herald of Perfection. You set going second, you set this in this column. So when on their turn, when you use your trap and Herald tries to negate, you flip this and negate their Herald and destroy it. Well, you're against Avian Apex, right? Like their Herald is in this column. Then you set this, right? Like or Apex Avian is in this column. On their turn, bam, like, you try to, maybe you turn to tribute, maybe you use Ice Dragon's Prison, they try to negate you, bam, you flip this and negate their monster. So you want to set these, when you're going second, you want to set these in the columns where their boss monsters are, because they're just free, and they're counter traps, which means they cannot be negated unless they have Solemn Judgment, basically. So this is really good. Going first, and in fact, this is kind of generically good going first too, like, a lot of times people instinctively play cards in the middle column. So if you're going first, or they make you go first, you set Broken Line in the middle column. Like this happened, no joke. I was against a Burn Up player. Yep, this is in the Burn Up matchup. I set 5 and pass, and my middle set was Broken Line. Their turn, they went into battle phase, evenly matched, but they set evenly matched in the middle column. So I literally got to free negate evenly matched for no life points, right? To be fair, I had Solemn Judgment, so I could have Solemn Judgment, but that saved me 4,000 life points, and like it just negated their card. So you might think like, oh, that's kind of gimmicky. Once they know you have Broken Line, they'll play around it. Yes, but once they know, it'll be too late, right? Like, again, this is in your side deck because you surprise them with it. Most people do not expect this, so they just instinctively like just put cards in the middle, or especially since you have 2 of them, if you know they're a deck with a lot of link monsters, put them in the side columns because where the extra monster zones are, right, in anticipation for their link plays. Like, this card is really good. And then like in like game 3 or whatever, they're afraid of this, so you can mind game them about it, right? The threat is greater than the execution. So yeah, going second, I side these cards in most of the time. All right, what do I side out? Well, remember how I said these pots can be sided out? So these 3 pots for these 3 lava golems, these 2 pots for these 2 broken lines, usually is what I do. What about the sphere mode? Well, it depends on the matchup. Against Sword Soul, I don't use these because they don't usually end the board with 3 monsters. But I usually have 3 other traps, like, depending on the matchup, that I side out to put these in. But yeah, usually these for these, and these for these is usually how I side most of the time. Of course, if you want to keep the pots, you can. There's other cards you can side out, but when in doubt, just side out the pots. Like, you don't really need them. Okay, so these are my going second side deck. Now, let's talk about the rest of my side deck, which is kind of generic. So, remember how I mentioned in my main deck discussion, I play a 3rd copy of the following cards in the side deck. Heavenly Prison, goes and match, D-Barrier. So let's say you're against a deck that has a lot of pops. Maybe you're against Live Twins, Evil Twin deck. Maybe you're against a deck that has DPE, where they're going to try to pop your cards a lot. Maybe you're against, like, Virtual World has Chuche, right? Anytime you're against a deck where you know they have a lot of pops, or you know they have Lightning Storms or like Twin Twisters, put the 3rd copy into your deck just to make sure that you get this guy, because he'll protect your back row like a champ. Other matchups, like if you know you're against Sword Soul, you want a 3rd Goza match. You also want a 3rd D-Barrier because these mess up Sword Soul. Against Sky Striker, maybe you want to take out all your D-Barriers and put in all your Gozen matches, right? Maybe against Drytron, you want to take out all your Gozen matches and put in all your D-Barriers because, D-Barrier is amazing against Drytron. So yeah, these third copies are just to make just to strengthen like the things in your deck that are already good at dealing with certain matchups, right? So yeah, I just run the third copy of each. All right, next, Heavy Storm Duster. This is for matchups where they have back row, or like that they're going to be using their back row a lot. This is better than Twin Twisters because you don't need to discard a card. Pops 2, and because it's a normal trap, you can use Trap Trick to grab this. So you essentially have 4 copies of this, right? I actually use this to help win the game against a Flu player. I'll explain how later. And then the final 2 cards, Needle Sealing. Needle Sealing is 2 more copies of Torrential Tribute. This does not require them to summon, it just requires 4 monsters to be on the field. But remember, because you have like your Eldlich traps, like the Golden Land monsters, they only need 3 monsters on the field, and then you get the 4th body using one of these, right, Huaquero or Conquistador, and then you can flip Needle Sealing. Yeah, so again, 2 more copies of Torrential Tribute, just clears the board, and because these are normal traps, this can be Trap Tricked, which means this is 4 copies of Needle Sealing. Yeah, normally you don't want any fewer than 2 copies of a trap card because Trap Trick requires at least 2 copies in the deck to use. But yeah, Needle Sealing also won me the game, the finals. And all right, so anyway, here's the side deck, and now I'm gonna get into a quick little rundown of how I defeated the Fluanderies player in the final game. I'm not gonna go over game 1 because I don't remember it that much, but game 2 was very memorable. All right, so I don't know how much you know about Fluanderies, but so the Fluanderies player went first because I won game 1, so he chose to go first in game 2. Game 2, he set up like a full Fluanderies board. He had M-Pen. He had M-Pen, right? And then he set the trap that allows him to summon on my turn. All right, so what did I open with? I opened with a single Eldlich. I opened with what did I open with? Needle Sealing. So my opening hand was, I'm trying to remember. I opened with, trying to think here. Conch. I opened with Trap Trick. And I opened with Imperial Order. Yeah, so that was my opening hand. Against a Fluanderies player, okay? So this is my 5 cards. I went second, so I drew a 6th card. I'm trying to remember what the 6th card was. Must not have been that important. Oh yeah, it was a punishment, I think. Was it a punishment? Maybe it was a Solemn Strike. I don't know. I guess the 6th card was irrelevant. All right, so he had an M-Pen, and then he had the face down trap that allows him to summon on my turn. So because I knew he had that face down trap, on my turn I sent Eldlich with Kong to the graveyard to pop his trap. It's a targeted. So in response, he chained the trap, and then he did his Fluanderies combo. So he had M-Pen. He had Barrier Statue. He had Apex Avian. No. M-Pen. He had 2 small birds, and he had a Barrier Statue. Yeah. I don't think he went into Apex Avian. Yeah. Anyway, he ended with 4 monsters on his turn, right? So I set these 3 cards. I think I had a 4th card that I set as well. I forgot what it was. Let's say it was a Dogmatic Punishment. Like, whatever. I had a 4th trap. I guess it's just not that relevant. So I set Needle Sealing, I set Imperial Order, I set Trap Trick, right? On his turn, he thought that I had Torrential Tribute, right? Because Eldlich players love playing Torrential Tribute. He did not know that I had Needle Sealing, right? He never saw this card before because this is the first time I side decked this in. So since he had 4 monsters on the field, whose attacks added to like well over like 4K, he instantly went into battle phase, right? because he thought that if he summoned a monster that oh, I remember. So on his standby phase, I flipped Imperial Order. Why did I do this? I did this because he had the Fluanderies card, the Unexplored Winds, which is a spell card that allows him to tribute my cards to summon to tribute summon, right? So I didn't want him to use that to send my back row to the graveyard. So I flipped this on his standby phase to prevent him from using that spell. Also, I knew because he was a Flounder player, I knew that he played Book of Moons and Book of Eclipses because I saw it in game one, right? Like it's just something that Flounders players do. So I preemptively opened this so he would not be able to use his Book of Moon or Book of Eclipses. Why I do that? Well, because if you read Needle Sealing says when there are 4 or more monsters on the field, destroy all face-up monsters. So if he had Book of Moon or Book of Eclipse, he can chain it to Needle Sealing to flip his board face down and nothing gets destroyed, right? So yeah, 2 reasons I preemptively flipped this on his standby phase because I did not want him to use his books and I did not want him to use his Unexplored Winds to tribute my cards. Alright, so he goes straight into battle phase. He has 4 monsters he wants to attack me with. Start a battle phase, Needle Sealing. Bam. He has 4 monsters. I kill all of them. Wait, I'm trying to remember. Maybe the 6th card was important. Oh, my 6th card was Eldlich. I remember. Oh, wait. This Eldlich that I sent to the graveyard with Conquistador on my turn, I managed to conk to set Eldlich on my turn. Yeah, so I did have an Eldlich. Yeah, I remember now. So I did set the Eldlich. Alright. So battle phase. Needle Sealing kills his board, right? He goes into main phase 2. He sets 2 cards on his field, face down. He goes to end phase. On end phase, what do? First, I use Eldlich to bring back to summon my second Eldlich from the deck, right? His 2 face down cards. So this goes to the graveyard. Then I use Trap Trick. Trap Trick allowed me to set Heavy Storm Duster from. So I sided these in against Flanders because they have a lot of back row that's annoying to deal with. Like I want to get rid of the map. I want to get rid of the Unexplored Wind, so I always side these against Flanders. Especially since I side out like Ice Dragon's Prison, which is useless against them. Like, yeah. So I use Trap Trick, banish this to set Heavy Storm Duster. Then on resolution, I immediately use Heavy Storm Duster to destroy his 2 set cards. And you'll never guess what his 2 set cards were. One of them was Imperm. The other one was Royal Decree. So this guy sided in Royal Decree against me. If he was able to, because it was his turn, I popped it. He wasn't able to chain. If he was able to use Royal Decree against me, I would have been completely screwed, right? So yeah, Heavy Storm Duster, amazing. Pop his 2 back row. My turn. I draw a card. What do? Because I have Eldlich in the graveyard that I just played, I banished that to set one of the Eldlich cards. I think it was like a Conquistador or Huaquero. It doesn't matter. Let's say it was Huaquero. So I set Huaquero, right? And then I tribute Huaquero to bring back the Eldlich from the previous turn, my other Eldlich here, right? So I now have 2 Eldliches. I overlay them into Gustav Max. Detach to burn for 2k. And then I rank up. Detach to make for 6k. Swing for 6k. Win the game. So that was the final game I won in the tournament that got me first place. That's how that was a short replay of how I won. So yeah, Trap Trick is amazing. Never underestimate it. Like you want to usually use it on end phase and bring a trap from the deck. That's really useful. Heavy Storm Duster. That's why you run 2 of them. Needle Sealing. Nobody expects it. He played around Torrential, so he did not summon. Right. He had a Ryza on his hand. He revealed afterwards that he did not summon because he was afraid if he summoned Ryza, I would Torrential and clear his whole board. Right. So he literally didn't summon Ryza because of that. So he goes into battle phase. I flip this, clear his monsters, and now he has no monsters to tribute for Ryza, and he has no normal summon plays left to do. So, anyway, yeah, so that's how I won. Yeah, Eldritch Trap is very good. It's probably the strongest rogue deck in the format right now. Like, if you don't want to play 10E, Bird Up, or whatever, yeah, play this. It's really good. I would say, so I'm gonna try to play it at my locals, see how I do. But yeah, as soon as Battle of Chaos comes out in February, I'm gonna switch fully back to Dark Magician. But also, I want to see the ban list drop. Ban list should drop next week. I hope there'll be a lot of juicy changes. But as soon as the ban list drops, I'm gonna start practicing for YCS Vegas. So I don't know if I mentioned it in one of my other videos, but I'm signed up for YCS Vegas, assuming that it's gonna happen. I'll be going to that in the end of February. So because of that, I will be doing some rigorous training, playing only Dark Magician online, like with my friends and like other people in the Dark Magician community, because I have to be as ready as possible. So me and my friends we're gonna build all the meta decks. We're gonna try to, um, you know, play each other. I play Dark Magician. They play whatever meta deck. Um, one of my friends is going to play in the tournament as well. I think he's going to play Flu or maybe Modolce or something. Like he and I are going to train. Like I think another dude from the Discord, Dark Magician Discord, is going to train with me as well. So yeah, I'm going to go into rigorous training probably next week, starting with the Dark Magician profile with all the Battle of Chaos support. So do expect to see more Dark Magician videos from me going forward. This will probably be the only Eldlich video that you see me make, period, because it is my third favorite deck. Like I said, it's not my favorite, but it is fun. I do enjoy playing this, and I do feel like like you have to be a little smarter with how you play. Like you have to time your traps perfectly so that everything works out. But yeah, let me see what else. Yeah, feel free to comment in terms of uh, how much fun I had and like what I expect about YCS Vegas. So the other YCSs, Utrecht got canceled, Pasadena got canceled. I do think Vegas, because it's the end of February, is going to be on like the latter end of the COVID spikes, and it's in Vegas, not in California, which is more lax about their COVID stuff. I don't think it's going to be canceled. So I think YCS Vegas will be the first in-person event, but also it'll be the first event in a new format, right, where you have new ban lists, you have hopefully a new format because Sword Soul will hopefully be nerfed. You'll have all these new cards. You have the Brave tokens, which I guess are called Adventure tokens. You'll have all the new stuff like Battle of Chaos, like Dark Magician might be good. So yeah, so that's what I'll be focusing on, hyper focusing on in the next, starting next week, once the ban list announces. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Hope you found a nice change of pace. But yeah, this is a winning deck. This went undefeated at Gamer's Choice. This is one of the biggest, most competitive locals in the country. Um, and yeah, and I think I've posted the images of my victory in this video. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something and that yeah. Let me know if you want to see other deck profiles too. One of these days I'll make a Subterror deck profile because I also enjoy playing Subterror. But I want to win locals with it first, like first place. I have won first place with Subterror before at locals, but it's been a while, so deck profile's changed. So yeah, thanks a lot, and I hope you'll subscribe, like, and comments on my channels, and stay tuned for more Dark Magician content. Peace.